Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And today's topic is a beautiful poem written by William Wordsworth called "A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal." So, first of all, before we proceed with the poem, I believe we should know a little about the poet and his ideologies, the kind of ideologies that William Wordsworth used to believe. So, when I talk about William Wordsworth, so then I have to say that he stands as a towering figure of English Romanticism and a seminal architect of a poetic revolution that decisively broke away from the artificiality and rhetorical excesses of 18th century neoclassicism. So we have seen that in the neoclassicism period, Alexander Pope's An Essay on Criticism or The Rape of the Lock. So in these great masterpieces, he uses highly formal diction, elaborate metaphors, and strict heroic couplets, focusing on wit, reason, and classical ideals rather than emotion. But when we see the writings of William Wordsworth, we can see that he championed poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. When he says this phrase, so he basically wants to say that poetry is the natural and free expression of deep emotions. So, Wordsworth believed that true poetry does not come from careful planning or artificial language. Instead, it follows natural and effortlessly from the poet's intense feelings such as joy, sorrow, love, or wonder. So, Wordsworth's poetry is profoundly nature centric, presenting the natural world not merely as a scenic backdrop but as a sentient moral force, a nurturing presence that shapes human consciousness, heals psychological wounds, and elevates the soul. Through sustained personification, symbolism, and pantheistic imagery, he portrays nature as a living teacher and a spiritual companion. And this nature is capable of guiding humanity from moral darkness to inner illumination. So that's why we can see that unlike other romantic poets such as Byron, who celebrates rebellion and fiery passion, as seen in Childe Harold's Pilgrimage and Don Juan, where the hero embodies defiance, restlessness, and social revolt, Wordsworth, on the other hand, turns inward to the quiet workings of the mind and the moral growth of the individual. Similarly, in case of Shelley, on the other hand, so he reveals the visionary idealism and revolutionary hope evident in poems like Ode to the West Wind, Prometheus, Unbound, where imagination seeks to transform society and liberate humanity. So Wordsworth, by contrast, avoids grand political prophecy and he only focuses on personal emotions shaped by reflection. So he also differs from another most celebrated romantic poet, St. Coleridge. So his poetry frequently explores the supernatural and psychological uncanny, as illustrated in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Christabel, where dreams, guilt, mystery, and spectral forces dominate. Whereas we can see that Wordsworth remains firmly rooted in the real and the familiar, finding depth in common life and nature, as seen in poems like Tintern Abbey, Michael, and A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. So, during his lifetime, he had written so many great poems, So we can say that he started this romantic movement when he wrote lyrical ballads with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and this work actually marks the beginning of English Romanticism. Includes poems like lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey, and also he wrote daffodils, which is also known as I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, which celebrates the beauty of nature and its afflicting effect on the human spirit. The prelude, an autobiographical epic poem, reflects Wordsworth's personal growth experiences and love for nature, and he had written uh, approximately five, if I am not wrong, I think he had written five Lucy poems, a series of short lyrical poems about the mysterious Lucy, themes and that celebrates themes of innocence, beauty, and mortality. And this specific poem, which has been named as a slumber did my spirit seal, so it is one of the five short Lucy poems that he had written. Reflects on the strangeness and shock of Lucy's death. So, having always imagined her as youthful and full of life, he struggles to accept that her dead body is now motionless, like the rocks, stones, and trees. So, the poem also suggests a broader truth that many people live in a kind of unconscious slumber, ignoring the reality of death even though it is inevitable. So when he talks about Lucy, so the character Lucy was not a clearly identified real person. So Wordsworth never explained who she was, which has led to many interpretations. So some people say that some scholars think Lucy may have been inspired by Dorothy Wordsworth, the poet's sister, or some even say that there is this woman named Margaret Hutchinson, a woman Wordsworth admired, but there is no firm evidence. The poem starts with these lines which say, a slumber did my spirit seal, I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. So, in the very first stanza, we can see that the speaker says that a slumber did my spirit seal. So, the speaker says that his mind and his soul were in a deep, dreamlike state. His spirit was sealed off from reality, meaning he was emotionally unaware and protected from painful truths, especially the reality of death and loss. He was completely ignorant of this harsh truth that every single individual has to face this inevitable death. The next line says, I had no human fears. So, because he was in such a dreamlike state, as because his spirit was sealed, the speaker lived without normal human worries, such as fear of aging, suffering, or death. He did not think about the fact that life is temporary. He was completely unaware of this fact that every single human being is mortal and every single human being has to taste the death, inevitable death. The next line says, she seemed a thing that could not feel. So, in this line, the speaker describes how Lucy appeared to him while she was still alive, and while his own spirit was in a state of emotional slumber. So, the word seemed here is very important because it shows that this was the speaker's perception, not reality. So he did not truly know Lucy was a model human being. Instead, he imagined her as something beyond ordinary human experience. The use of the word thing is especially striking. Rather than calling Lucy a person or a woman, the speaker refers to her as a thing, which suggests that he saw her as almost abstract or idealized. So she appeared less like a human being and more like a perfect, timeless presence, something closer to a natural object or a spiritual entity. So this choice of words that the kind of words that William Wordsworth had chosen reflects how he wants his speaker to portray her, removing her from the normal conditions of human life. So the phrase could not feel does not mean that Lucy lacked emotions. Instead, it suggests that the speaker believed she was untouched by pain, suffering, aging, and the hardships of earthly existence. So the speaker imagined her as immune to the changes and decay that time brings. In his mind, she existed in a state of permanence and purity, free from vulnerability. So the next line says the touch of earthly years. So it refers to the effects of time on human life. So every single human being is affected by the course of time. It means aging, physical changes, suffering, and the gradual decline that come with living on the earth. In the poem, the speaker believed Lucy was completely untouched by these effects, as if time had no power over her. But gradually, his perception about Lucy changes, and it has been described in the next stanza. No motion has he now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. So these lines mark the most abrupt and painful shift in the poem, from illusion to reality. The word now is very crucial here. It sharply contrasts Lucy's earlier image as timeless and untouched by age, which was completely perceived by the speaker, and the speaker is no longer dreaming anymore. He is fully awake to the truth of death. No motion and no force emphasize complete lifelessness. Motion and force are basic signs of life that we know, and their absence confirms that Lucy is dead. So the repetition of no intensifies the sense of finality and emptiness, suggesting that all vitality has left her body. So the line when the speaker says this line that she neither hears nor sees reinforces this absolute silence and stillness. Hearing and sight are the most fundamental human senses that a human can have. And by stating that Lucy lacks both, the poet shows that she is completely cut off from the living world. So there is no response, no awareness, no connection. So, on a deeper level, these lines destroy the speaker's earlier illusion that Lucy was beyond time and decay, not even the earthly effect will have impact on her body. So once imagined as untouched by earthly years, she is now reduced to pure physical absence, and she is no exception for she is no exception now. Wordsworth deliberately uses plain, unemotional language to heighten the shock. The simplicity mirrors the cold, unavoidable truth of death. The last two lines says, rolled round in earth's diurnal course with rocks and stones and trees. So these final lines show Lucy's complete union with nature after death. The phrase Earth's diurnal course refers to the daily rotation of the Earth. So Lucy's body is now no longer moving by its own will. Instead, it is passively carried along with the Earth's natural motion. This emphasizes her total loss of individuality and human agency. So the poet has perfectly used the word rolled, which suggests an unconscious mechanical movement. Lucy is not alive or active. She is simply part of the physical world, moving as the earth moves. So this image highlights the finality of death and contrasts sharply with the earlier belief that she was beyond time and change. By placing Lucy with rocks and stones and trees, the poet Wordsworth shows that she has become one with nature. These inanimate objects symbolize permanence, stability, and indifference. So Lucy is now no different from them. She has lost all human qualities and individuality. Nature, so this is what we learn from this poem, that nature absorbs everything. So nature absorbs her without emotion, underlining its impartial and unfeeling power. So these lines express a romantic idea. Humans ultimately return to nature after death, yet the tone is not comforting but calm and stark. The speaker does not cry out in grief. Instead, he accepts the reality of death as part of the natural world. So, together, these lines complete the poem's movement from illusion to reality, from idealization to acceptance, leaving the reader with a quiet but powerful meditation on mortality and nature's eternal cycle. The poem shows how the speaker moves from innocent idealization to the heart's acceptance of reality. He once believed that Lucy was beyond time and death, but her loss awakens him to the truth of human mortality. So, in the end, we have learned that Lucy becomes part of nature, reminding us all that life is temporary and all humans must return to the natural world.